Is your remote workforce not working out so well? Maybe you just need a better handbook. Let's play.
How brilliant is it?
Welcome to How Brilliant Is It, where we seek out the well-written, actionable, and uniquely brilliant articles from Harvard Business Review that can help you make a great business into an extraordinary. And here's your host, Professor Jeffy.
Welcome to How Brilliant Is It, where we score the articles of Harvard Business Review. You know, growing a business of any size can be incredibly challenging, but HBR has always been an exceptional source for extensively researched, concise, and actionable business solutions to real business problems. Does today's author have something brilliant that can help you make your business extraordinary? Let's find out. The problem we're addressing today is, and these are my words, not a quote from the article, but that companies may not be happy with the results they're getting from their remote workforce because they may not be going about it in the right way. And now, let's meet today's author. Today's article was written by GitLab's CEO, Sid Sijbrandij. Now let's see what Sid has for us. Sid's article from the March 2023 issue of Harvard Business Review is from the How We Did It segment and is titled GitLab's CEO on Building One of the World's Largest All-Remote Companies. And by the way, for any of you that may have noticed that episode 1 was based on the May of 2022 issue, and now we're jumping ahead to the March of 2023 issue, you didn't miss anything. Starting with the March of 2023 issue, all episodes will be in order and by issue, which means that Ben Armstrong and Julie Shaw, you're up next. Anyhow, back to GitLab. The article starts off with how GitLab tried to set up an office multiple times. He shares how it just became apparent that there was not a need for a physical space, even now with over 2,000 employees spread over 60 countries. Then we get into the 4 main pillars of their approach. The first of the pillars is titled Output, Not Input. It's about how they don't really focus on the hours someone worked, but actually on the results. It's based on having projects that are clearly defined, and he includes a brief overview of their development workflow. They set OKRs for each quarter, and team members get a lot of say in how they're achieved. He concludes with how they track the metrics that are specific to each department. The next pillar is cultural alignment, where we're introduced to how they define their norms and values. And here's where we really get into the GitLab handbook, and it's over 2,000 pages that covers everything. It's even got a page for the steps that you have to go through to book a meeting with him. And by the way, this handbook is really impressive, and you can check it out for yourself by just Googling GitLab handbook. He explains how the handbook replaces a lot of the office know-how that would usually be handled through casual office interaction. And of course, they make heavy use of Zoom and Slack meetings. But one thing he does point out is that it's easier for them since they've always done it this way. It's an important caveat, and it's good that he included it. The third pillar is titled Open Everything. It talks about how transparency is a core value of theirs, and everything is public by default, including the steps to complete many tasks, as well as corporate information. How this openness has helped them win customers, investors, and talent. And he talks about how team members are expected to provide direct feedback to each other and not take offense when receiving it, and a little echo of Netflix's approach here. And he talks about how they do the standard meetings to review OKRs, key indicators, top-of-mind issues, etc. The fourth and last pillar is just good management. Employees are encouraged to be good self-managers, managers are encouraged to communicate frequently with team members, and that can include meetings that are just casual and don't even have an agenda. There are some in-person meetings, but not many, and of course they work with everyone to establish career paths, growth plans, that kind of thing. And how all of this is distilled into something they call team ops, which I have a hunch is very well documented in that GitLab handbook. In conclusion, Sid is puzzled by companies that went back to the office after COVID in spite of the productivity gains during the pandemic. How he thinks the hybrid approach with some people in the office, other people working remotely is actually the worst of both worlds because it's kind of an us versus them dynamic. And it wraps up with how he thinks remote working is the future of the workplace and encourages companies to follow their principles. Okay, so let's talk about this. Now, a lot of the time, How We Did It segments end up being more story than solution. And that's fine. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be, right? But what I've always liked about Harvard Business Review is that each issue tends to be a collection of actionable solutions that often have a framework, the steps, and examples that are used to illustrate the solution itself. Now, to me, a lot of the other business periodicals out there seem to be a collection of stories from which you're supposed to infer the solution. And if you have a different take on that, I'd really be interested to hear it. But back to Sid here, his article is more of a solution presented in the form of one big example. And to that end, he did a great job of only focusing on the portions of GitLab's story that would be relevant to other companies that wanted to do the same thing, which makes it an engaging read. In fact, so engaging that you might actually make it through to the end of the article before you realize that these concepts that he's talking about, well, they're not that new. Nonetheless, there is a lot here, and it is nicely squeezed into the 3.5 pages that are available for a How We Did It segment. And, of course, putting the whole handbook online for anybody to see is pretty awesome. So can this article help you make your business extraordinary? On its own, I don't think it can. But if you combine it with the GitLab handbook itself and use it as a model for your own approach to a remote workforce, then I suspect you do come away with something that is truly brilliant. But those are just my thoughts, and I would love to hear yours. Did Sid help you in your business? And if not, what would? I want to know, what's the solution you need to move your business forward? Just leave your comments below, or you can use the email link in the description. And now, it's time for our scoring round. On our first category, presentation, Sid squeaks into a 3 out of 3 possible points. On our next category, actionability, Sid gets a 2 out of 3 possible points. And on our last category, unique impact potential, Sid gets another 2 out of 3 possible points. But wait, we've got a bonus point. As you may have guessed, Sid gets a bonus point for including the reference to the GitLab handbook, which has the potential to be an incredible resource for other companies. Have I mentioned you should probably check it out? And that gives Sid a final score of 8. And I just want to point out that that is a great score for a How We Did It segment. Thanks again to our author, Sid Sijbrandij. And as always, if Sid or any of the authors we review would like to put their score up for a challenge round, all you have to do is use the email link in the description. But what you can do is use the link in the description to download the How Brilliant Is It scoring sheet to see what your score for today's article would be. Well, that just about wraps it up for today's show. Make sure you don't miss the next episode of How Brilliant Is It, where we're going to talk about how flexibility needs to be a core part of your strategy for automating your manufacturing with robots. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Space, and that is even true. And he frequently